Going live
Oh, we're live.
on Facebook, right?
Yeah, we're live. You're live right now.
Hey, so let me see how it's looking on my phone so I know. Hey, look at
You're
that.
so silly.
Okay,
You're so silly.
let me see. It's live, so I don't have to share it.
Nope, it's you're live.
Oh my goodness.
Look at that.
Okay, this is different, guys. And it looks like it's a delay. Hey guys, hey Facebook fam, my Fran fam. Welcome to Life and Style with Francyne. I am so excited that you all are here with me. I'm just going to adjust this. I appreciate my dear friend Von Nickleberry that I've known probably about 10 years now.
Yeah,
But
it's probably been longer than that.
yeah, wow,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, it has. So I certainly appreciate you all for tuning in. This is my first inaugural first. Anyway, show on Facebook Live. I've done Life and Style with Francyne where I'm just adjusting this. So, because I'm looking at maybe I shouldn't focus on my
Nope.
phone.
Nah,
Anyway,
I wouldn't focus on the phone. I would,
I won't focus
as
on my
a
phone.
matter of fact, because you're going to get feedback, you might just want to close that.
Okay, that'll be okay. But I won't be able to see. Anyway, that's fine. So this is my first show on Facebook Live. I've always pre-recorded shows and then uploaded them to Facebook, my
Mhm.
website, as well as YouTube. But I'm excited because I decided, and this is weird. Okay.
There you
I
go.
decided, there we go. I decided that I wanted to be a positive voice in the midst of the pandemic. And not just my voice, but people who I find to be um, positive and making an impact. So I want to facilitate stories, have different guests on that will encourage us through this COVID 19 because it has kicked our butt. And I watched after being sick with a mild version of COVID, I watched and wanted to figure out how I could use my gifts as a journalist to basically do my part and utilize my gifts and pivot because this is an opportunity for us all to pivot and come out on the other side. It's not to say that we have to, write the next War and Peace or, create the next Picasso. But I think at some point we will find our way after accepting because we're all grieving in some sort of way. Like I'm grieving the fact that there are certain things that we won't be able to do this summer. Sorry, guys. Going forward, we'll have to do certain things differently. So I'm grieving and I'm at the point where I'm accepting this as my new normal. So it's like I want to be encouraged and I want others along with myself to encourage you. So without further ado, my dear friend Von Nickleberry, who I've known more than 10 years, tell me a little bit about, first of all, welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
I understand. Please give him a virtual round of applause. He is recovering from a slipped disc. And so he is. And how did it happen again? What were
Oh,
you
you know
reaching
what?
for?
You know what? You are so funny. You really want me to tell that. Well, you know what? It's just now
Absolutely.
I've had it before, and usually when you get it, it's a lot easier to get it again, right? So I've been dealing with it since like 1996. But
Okay.
literally, I was just going to reheat some chicken nuggets, and some French
Mm-hmm.
fries. So I went to the
Mm-hmm.
freezer, grabbed the bag, and I tried to pull the rack out. And when I pulled the rack out, I just said to myself, "I just did it. I just did it." And
Yeah.
yeah, so you know what I said? If I just rest yesterday and I rest today, then I'll be okay in the next couple of days. You literally
Mhm.
got to take care of yourself. So yeah,
Yeah. It's so
that's where I'm
funny
at.
because you can be going on about your day. Thankfully, you were at home.
Oh yeah.
You can be going about your day, just doing your regular things. And then, because that's happened to me, and it's like, I was sitting at my computer
Yep.
and working on, something, and just like, whoa, what was that? And then I couldn't walk.
I
I
know that's what it
literally
is.
was like slithering down in the chair, like, oh, what happened?
Right.
But it was also in addition to having foot surgery, and I don't know what happened, but it was just like, I don't think my neck bone or my
Yeah.
foot bone was connected to my backbone, and they just weren't communicating. But
I know.
um, so, one of the things I know about you is because you are technically a motivational speaker, you have a team, you tend to look at things on the bright side. So I
Mhm.
thought it would be perfect to talk to you about positivity. Where we're going, just talk a little bit about what you do and how, first
Mhm.
of all, how to talk about your beginning and how you got here.
Um,
Because
first
I
I
love
was
your story.
first I was born, right? I always tell people that that's how you get
That
here.
was a great day.
It was, and I've had one of those just, I don't want to say fairy tale lives, because you say, well, how do you have a fairy tale life and you grow up
Sure.
and you grow up in a project in Saginaw, right? But
Hmm.
and not just that, but you grow up poor.
Yeah.
And then, your father works at General Motors, and then as the middle class rise, I was a part of, and my sister and our family, we were part of that middle class, rise with General Motors. And my mom
Hmm.
had a degree, and she was kind of a stay at home to take care of us. And, our parents introduced us to sports. And as a matter of fact, that's how I kind of got to the Metro Detroit area. Is I had a scholarship to play basketball at Eastern Michigan University. Um, and then I ended up working in the projects in Detroit, right? Warren
Okay.
County, Parkside Project, as a substance use youth counselor and prevention specialist. And to make a long story short, I showed up at work one day, and after years of being there, it's just after they hired a new project manager, we just didn't see eye to eye. And I remember a conversation where I was in a position where my income was determined based on whether or not somebody liked me, or whether
Yeah.
somebody was insecure about the relationship I had in the community compared to the relationship they had with the same people. And so it was just one, I feel threatened by Vaughn, even though the person worked a lot harder than I did, right? Um,
So
it
there
just,
can be jealousy among men. You know what I mean? It's typically for you to say
oh
that.
no, she was a female. I had a
Yeah.
female project direct manager,
Oh, okay.
and it was one of those things. It's just, I guess you have to be personable and likable.
Yeah.
And even though she had a lot more in terms of, she had a master's degree, I had an undergrad. And I'm not saying that I'm not intelligent or smart, but when it
Sure.
came to books, she had me beat. But when it came to the community, right,
Mm-hmm.
I had her beat. And it was just a matter of, she just didn't like that.
Sure.
And it was just, hey, look, we got to go our separate ways. And so that was a time where I said, how am I going to provide? Being newly married, this was in 1996. We got married in 94.
Okay.
How do you provide for your new spouse, you're newlywed, and what are you going to do? My mom said, why don't you teach? You're in Detroit. They'll hire you in a minute. And then
Sure.
my cousin called me up and said, hey, why don't you start a janitorial business? So I started a janitorial business. And that was my rise of being an entrepreneur.
Okay.
Most of the people in my family worked for one of the big three. And growing up as a kid, my mom and dad, we part time, we had an ice cream truck that we would, that was our little business.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I knew about business, but I never really started one. And so I just started a janitorial business. Did it for 10 years, and then someone introduced me to direct sales. And I've been working from home in direct sales since 2004. And
2004. Wow.
yeah, man,
That's almost, wow.
and it's
Interesting.
amazing. And because as an entrepreneur, you don't miss bills. It's tough. I think we paint this picture that, you start a
Yeah.
business, everything is good. Oh no, man, it was tough. And
Yeah.
so, but you grow from that, and you learn from that, and then you do what you got to do to make it happen. So,
What, and I believe you
mhm, good
when you
stuff.
say that. What? caused you to persevere through those lean years?
To be honest, it was debt. Um, because at the time, if I had a lot of judgments, a
Yeah,
lot of liens,
sure.
and if I worked for somebody, right, guess who get to take my income? The
Oh,
debt
wow.
collector. So I wanted to. I remember reading a book called Cash Flow Quadrant, or the first one. Well, I had already read Rich Dad Poor Dad, but I started
Sure.
reading a lot more of Robert Kiyosaki. And one of the things that I learned is that you need to protect your assets. And so when I got involved in direct sales, I said, well, man, you know what? That is one way where I can determine I can create income and not have
Yeah.
to worry about whether or not my checks was garnished. So I didn't have a choice. I mean, I could have worked for somebody else, right? But just imagine working
Mhm.
for somebody else, and all of a sudden you got 4 or 5 or 6 different liens, and then you
Yeah.
work 2 weeks, and then 50, 60, 70% of your income, your check is gone. That would have
Yeah.
been devastating for me. So
Yeah.
I was kind of like, you know what, I'm gonna do this entrepreneurial thing. Now, I'm not
Yeah.
saying don't pay your bills because you want to make sure
Sure.
that you pay your bills. But I also think that, you know what, it was just my dad and mom taught me how to play basketball,
Mhm.
and financial literacy wasn't probably in the top 5, even though we talked about it. It wasn't
Mhm.
instruction on how to do it.
Mhm.
And so I had mentors who, now my cousin had come into my life, and then I had the person who got me involved in direct sales had come into my life, and then a good friend of mine. And then I start listening to people. What do you do with your money? How do you handle it? How do you deal with people just not want to pay you as an entrepreneur? I had a
Sure.
janitorial business, and I remember one contract. It was a $300 a month contract. This real estate, we used to clean it, and man, it would take them 90 days to pay $300. And I just said,
Yeah.
you know what? I just, after 10 years, I said, you know what? It's time for me to move on. And then
Mhm.
someone introduced me to travel, and I said, I always love to travel, and I've been
Sure.
in travel ever since. It makes fun. It's exciting. Even right now, with everybody quarantined, guess what people are talking about? Man, when all this is over,
Yeah.
I'm going to do something special. I'm
Yeah.
going to go somewhere.
That's interesting because that's where, and I was going to talk about that, the
Mhm.
pivot, where how do you, with travel suspended as it is, how do you pivot? You know what I'm saying? What do you do currently to, and obviously, because you talked about financial literacy,
Mhm.
I'm going to assume that you're okay, but yet
I'm
you would
okay.
like travel. You know what I mean?
Oh
You would
yeah.
like to
Oh
see
yeah.
people traveling.
You know what? I'm okay. I would love to see people traveling. One
Mhm.
of the things that we did is, you learn from your experiences. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, travel is suspended, but it's not just travel. The restaurant business,
Yeah.
not just the restaurant business. There's the nail salons, not just the nail
Yes.
salons. And so
Yes.
what we're seeing in our economy is that a lot of people are impacted by it. You have a few
Sure.
industries that are really doing good, right? You might have Zoom. A lot more people had Zoom accounts, and but
Mhm.
at the same time, you do have to pivot, and you have to prepare. You have to brace yourself. And I
Yeah.
think anybody that says, "Well, I know what the future is going to hold," I think they're not telling the truth.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
anybody that says, "You know what? Whatever is going on, we'll bounce back," I'll listen to that person, because when you look at our history, and just human beings in general, whenever there's a tragedy, we do tend to bounce back.
Sure.
That doesn't mean we don't have casualties. That doesn't mean that people does that we don't lose anything. And so I think the first thing, that if I was to offer any words of encouragement, the first thing would be this: be grateful for that you have life.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's key, because it doesn't make a difference. I mean, there's no coming back from death. You know,
Nothing. I
you,
posted earlier. I said today is a gift.
yeah, it
I
is.
threw away the receipt because I'm not returning it,
Mhm.
But I really don't have a choice, honestly, because tomorrow is not promised, not even the next moment. So
Mhm.
I'm grateful. There's definitely challenges. I would give anything to jump in my car and go where I can go. But at the same time, I know I'm keeping myself safe. I'm keeping my family safe. I'm keeping everyone that I know and don't know safe.
Mhm.
So it's like those are just the necessary sacrifices we have to make for the sake of humanity, right?
Yeah.
So I think we are basically a people that have survived a lot. So this is just really our sacrifice that we have to make. Now, you talked about as far as, so you've got the travel, we're looking at we've got the other industries, and you hear people talking about as soon as this is over, I'm going here. Do you foresee that? Do you foresee travel changing in some
Oh,
kind of way? It's not so much in the accuracy, it's so much you have to be accurate, but how do you see travel changing as a
okay.
result of the pandemic?
All right. Well, it's the same that it's always been, right? So you guys remember
Mhm.
9/11?
Yeah,
Right. Do you remember
yeah,
your first airplane ride after 9/11?
yeah.
What was going on through your head?
Oh God,
Yeah.
please don't
Right.
let it.
Yeah. And
don't
so,
let me be on a plane.
right.
When something like that similar would
Right.
happen. Yeah,
So 9/11 changed. But
it
what
sure
happened
did.
is, this is, if you don't take anything else away from what I say, I want to use this analogy. Okay.
Okay,
Um, and this is the industry. I got a couple analogies I want to, but I want to use this one. Is that,
please.
Francine, when you came, I'm pretty sure you're sitting on a chair, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you didn't check to see if that chair was going to hold you, correct? You just sat in it.
Not pretty
Right.
much.
So in other words, you had faith based on past experiences, and you had
Yes.
faith based on your relationship with the chair that you have, that it was going to hold you. You didn't even see it holding you in the future. You just know if
Right.
I sit down, it's what it's going to do.
Sure.
And see, before 9/11, that's what happened. People don't get on an airplane. It was just like sitting down in a chair. But when let's say you sit down in a chair tomorrow and it falls and you're on the
Mm.
floor, what's going to happen the next time you sit in a chair? You're going to check it, aren't you?
I'm gonna check the
You're going
chair.
to check it. And so then you have to, right. So in other words, that what happened shook your faith in that chair, just like
Right.
your faith was shaken with 9/11. But then the
Hmm.
more you experience getting on an airplane, and then you got on one and everything was okay. Then you got on your second airplane ride and everything was okay. Then you got on your third airplane ride, everything was okay. Well, by the time you get to the seventh and the eighth ride, you're no longer checking that chair.
Ah,
And so when you say is how is it going to impact travel? Well, it's going to impact travel that people are going to, when they get on the airplane, they're going to look at the person next to them. They're going to see if they have on a mask or whether or not they have on a mask. Are they too
sure.
close? Are they not too close?
Hmm.
Now that might
Hmm.
become the new norm, but what happened is now you start to develop your routine all over again.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so 5 years from now, we're going to remember this just like we remember 9/11. But just
Yes.
like you get on a plane tomorrow, you aren't worried about flying into a building. Now
Sure.
your worry may be, am I going to get sick? So what do, right? More of it, we take our hand sanitizer. I always take hand sanitizer with me wherever I go.
Hmm.
I get on an
Hmm.
airplane. The first thing I do is I wipe the tray down in front of me. I was doing that prior to.
Yeah.
Now more people are going to do that, right? Now the one
Yeah.
thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a mask with me everywhere I go. If I'm
Absolutely.
going to be on an airplane,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
that's going to be the normal. And then
Yes.
what'll happen is, you know what, maybe we'll become a little bit more lax down the road. But you know what? It's just like anything. We can't predict the future, but we can predict this.
Sure.
If it's spring in Michigan, what's coming after spring?
Summer.
Summer. And if it's summer, now we can't predict the temperature per se. I don't know they tried it, but I'm just talking about just looking back.
Sure.
But
Absolutely.
after summer, what comes next? Fall. After
Hmm.
fall comes winter. And see, so you're going to have those seasons. So right now, it's almost like, you know what? I love Game of Thrones. And it was like, hey, winter is coming, right? Winter is coming.
Sure.
All of a sudden, winter is here, right? You got the pandemic. But even with all that taking place, guess what comes after winter?
Yep.
Spring. And you have these seasons and these same cycles. And one of the things I'm so proud of about, just the outlook on life is you realize if I have life, if
Mm.
I'm if
Come
I'm
on
in
now.
my right, now if I'm in my right mind, So it's one thing
Yes.
to have life. It's another thing to have life and be in your right mind.
Yes.
See,
I
because you have
agree.
a lot of people that have life, but just mentally, they just don't have the capacity to function based on what has happened to them in times past. See,
Sure.
so now not only do I have life, not only do I have my mental
Sound
capacity,
mind.
that's
Yes.
it, my sound mind, but now I have a team of people that say, you know what, even in the event that we lose something, guess what we'll do? Come our season, we'll get it back, or we'll get
My
more. Right?
God. Yes.
It becomes a story of Joe, right? Whether you want to believe it from a literary standpoint or you want to believe it as spiritual, as this
Hmm.
thing really happened. And before this guy was just down and out. And then everybody came to Job, who should have been his friends, and was saying, Job, hey, what is it that you did that was so wrong that God
Yes.
is upset with you? And then
Yeah.
there's this restoration period. And I think if
Hmm.
you look at it, that's what happened. Sure, this is the time where it seemed like things have been taken from us. I get it. I understand. You
Hmm.
know, my son and my wife, Sarah, they love this idea, right? They could do this all day long. But me, please, I got to get out. I have to meet people. And
Yeah.
so I just want to say
Yeah.
thank you for allowing me to be the first one that you would interview. And so in just talking to the audience,
Yeah.
I would want to say this. Be grateful for what you do have.
Amen.
If you could have got a phone call today saying, you know what, your mother, your father did make it. Your sister, your
Hmm.
brother did make it.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I think once we start to look at the things that we do have and we focus on that rather than the stuff we don't have, then I think that will be probably the the biggest challenge that we have is focusing on what we do have, not
Sure.
the stuff that's not going our way or we don't have right now.
Yeah. I think that has been I think that has been kind of one of the things that has been somewhat of a piece
Hmm.
from me. It's like, okay, like I said, I can't go anywhere. My birthday's in June. I can't go dancing because I don't think anything's going to open up. At least I'm not going to be there. It can open up,
Hmm.
but I'm not going. But hey, I've got my family. Everybody is safe in the house. I can account for everybody, not wondering. My son is 28. So it's like, I know he's here. I know he's practicing social distancing. And it's not to say that I would try and control, but I'm just glad I don't have to. You know what I mean? My sisters, my niece, we're all good. So I'm grateful for the people that are close to my heart that
Hmm.
are still safe. Everything else, I hate the concerts and things that I'll miss because, again, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. Will I in the future? Absolutely. But right now is the season. I think that's a gift. And I try not to talk about that too much, given that I know there are people around me that have lost so much and they are grieving.
Hmm.
So I focus on the gifts that are before me and this time. I'm an extrovert, but at the same time, I can retreat so that I can re energize and come back stronger. And that's what I look at this pandemic as a time to pivot, a time to really kind of reinvent myself. Do
Hmm.
you find that you will do that as well?
Um, I think when you have a desire to help people, I don't know if you
Hmm.
reinvent yourself. You just keep doing what you love doing.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
now you may change how you do certain things.
Sure.
Um, I think a lot of times what happens when things like this is that it just kind of reveals the character on the inside.
I said the same thing. I
You
said,
know,
this is going to magnify who you are. You
mhm,
will either submerge or emerge.
yeah. Or some people are just going to stay stagnant.
Yeah. Yeah. And
You know,
and you know what? I think that's okay.
yeah, it is. But the thing is this: we have to get in contact with whatever our dreams and desires are. Now, first of
Yes.
all, I got to say, make sure they're legal, right? 'Cause make sure that
Right.
they're legal and that they're moral, right? When we talk about dreams and
Right.
yeah,
Selling
but
black market
yeah,
vaccines and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah. Right, right. We can't do that, right? But get, for a lot of people, this gives them a time to find out if they haven't already what my purpose in life is.
Yeah.
Because you literally
Yeah.
can live your entire life and not know what your purpose is.
Sure.
So I think in times like this, it's a great times for self-reflection. Why
Mm-hmm.
am I here?
Mm-hmm.
What am I
Mm-hmm.
doing? Who can I impact? Who can I
Sure.
help? Who can I serve? And I
Yeah.
think we live in such a me society. It's all about me. I think when
Mm-hmm.
we look around, people say, hey, it's all about me. I want to be able to do this. Yeah, I get it. I understand. I mean,
Totally.
I think we all want to go somewhere, and it's not that, I hear it all the time. Well, Francine, you should be able to go out. You shouldn't live your life in fear. No, it's not me living my life in fear. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just the simple fact that what I'm doing is I'm protecting those that I absolutely love.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so for a person that is a person of faith, I want to make sure that my liberty to do certain things
Mm-hmm.
don't cause harm to others.
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
the important part. So when we really talk about freedom and maturity, it's don't allow my freedom to be in a position to oppress somebody else or to
Come on.
become a stumbling block to somebody else.
Sure. Yes.
And I think that's
Yes.
the thing that we have to realize. And I tell people all the time, live your life by this golden rule. And it's
Yes.
a simple golden rule that you love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and that you love your neighbor as yourself. And if
Yes.
we do that, we can overcome any tragedy as
Yeah.
a country, as a nation, as a whole, as
Mm-hmm.
as all of humanity, because
Mm-hmm.
we put those principles first.
And not to get political, but weigh in on I I saw some disturbing images yesterday.
Hmm.
And when I looked at these pictures of the protesters, my hands were shaking. I was literally appalled. Um, so I don't know if they were thinking about their neighbors,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
and weigh in on that. And what did you think of that? I mean, it's all over the internet. The
Well,
the
you know what?
horrid images.
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna call my cousin Darnell. We gonna get
Hmm.
Ray and Mike, and we gonna do the same thing. We gonna get our guns, and we gonna have about 300 African American males, and we just gonna tell people we headed to Lansing. And even before we get there, guess what will probably happen?
Might be some water holes. I don't
Yes,
know.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so, but again, I think people, if you can just say, hey, look, people are afraid. People are fearful.
Yes.
I understand that, right? People have
Yes.
built something. They and again, some people are just out there, right? Because but there are certain people, small business owners, who don't know how this is going to impact them,
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah.
lashing out. I get
Sure.
it,
Yeah.
but if you
So there
can,
are a multitude of people with various interests just coming together and ascending upon the Capitol based on
fear,
fear.
not only
Yeah.
fear, not only fear, but also that fear that leads them to almost want to be the bully on the block. Because remember,
Mm,
when we were kids, we were always talking about that the person who's doing the who's doing the most bullying is probably the weakest kid of them all.
pretty much.
Yeah,
Yep.
pretty much, right? And how do you
Yeah.
deal with it? You stand up to that bully. But when we look at it, right? And again, I try to kind of stay away from politics unless I can really have a dialogue one on one with an individual.
Sure.
But the reality of it is that particular freedom that you exercise, that isn't given to people that look like me. As a matter of fact,
Absolutely.
I remember the Mulford Act, with the Black Panthers, and they decided that we're going to do it. Then all of a sudden, you pass gun control laws. I get it, but you might say, well, that has happened in the past. Yeah, it has happened in the past. And the
Mm-hmm.
sad thing is, because of something like that that has happened in the past, right? A lot of people that look like me say, you know what? We know better than to take our guns and storm the
Absolutely.
Capitol, and because based on past, it just don't work for people that look like me. And that's not living my life in
Do you
fear.
find that No, I think sometimes people, they confuse fear with wisdom.
Hmm.
That's not wise for us
Mm.
to do anything like that. I don't think I would say, yes, let's go up there and make a point. That's probably not the way I
No,
want to go.
that's not the way I want to go. But I think you got to use wisdom. See, and again, I don't like to use, I do like to use these examples, but then a lot of times when you use biblical examples, I have to let person know whether you believe it or not, right? That's not, I just want you to get the essence of what I'm saying. That's like Noah who's, that's
Treat
like
it as an
Noah,
antidote.
right, right. That's like Noah who's building this ark. And
Yeah,
all of a sudden he's inside the ark and never seen rain before, right? It's like, hey, why are you building this ark?
yeah,
Well, there's this thing coming, and he had the right not to build it, right? But then sometimes you want to do things that protect your family.
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
my ark, right? It wasn't. Imagine somebody saying, "Hey, Noah, you really don't you trust God?" Well, if you
Yes.
really trust God, why are you building an ark, Noah? Well, Noah, don't you know if it rains, God will still protect you? Don't you know, Noah, that you have the power to overcome serpents and everything else? Why even worried about building an ark? Noah, because you built an ark, you aren't believing and trusting in God.
Mm, mm,
But I think there's a moment in time where when situations happen like this,
sure.
I think we need to really be sensitive to what's happening and taking place spiritually in the world.
Mm,
And so sometimes it's just in a society that we've become so rapid and fast, and everything moves fast, and people don't slow down, and people don't eat
mm-hmm.
dinner together, and people don't spend time because of the hustle and bustle of today's world and the economy that
Sure.
that just drives them to try to succeed. You have more and more people spending time with the people that they love.
Yeah.
And I was talking to one guy. I was talking to one guy. He said, "Man, look, the reason my wife and I are still together is because we get to go our separate ways, and we only get a chance to spend a couple of hours with each, and that keeps us sane." But I'm thinking to myself, that's not really a good relationship to be in.
No.
So a lot of
No.
people literally need to learn how to fall in love all over again with the very basic necessities of relationship and what is really important about this thing called life.
I am so glad you went there because this is a perfect segue to talk about family, love. You said you were married 94?
Yeah,
94?
well, you know what?
So
We
it's been
have to be.
26
Now,
years?
hold on. We have to be really careful because your buddy will be like, "Hey, I don't want people to know
I
how old
know. And we're
I
not going to do that to Sarah. That's my girl. It's like, what's the year?
am." Yeah, yeah. What's the year?
So 20 plus years.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
20 plus, 22 plus years.
Uh, yeah. It's like more like 26 come September,
Wow. And
and
you have one son, Sean.
one sunshine. Correct.
Yeah, yes. Talk about you. I mean, that's it's like, wait a minute, I'm fashioning some kind of metal, and tossing it through
Oh,
virtually. But talk about that because I hear, I made a joke. I said, man, vetting people now, you're going to think, could I be quarantined with them for 30 days or more? And if the answer is no, run.
right.
Next, So talk about that because Sarah and Sean are happy being at home.
Oh, they are, man.
But you, it's like, climbing the walls.
Right.
How does that work after 26 years? What do you find? Are you learning something new, you know, about
Well,
yourself, about Sarah?
you know what? We spent so much of our time together. I'm not saying I know everything, right?
Sure.
But Sarah is still Sarah. I know Sarah, right?
Keep it PC.
No, Sarah is still Sarah, and so
Sure.
because we spent so much time
Yeah.
together, and a lot of the time we've spent was together. That
Yeah.
I think she knows me better than anybody.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I met her in college. But one of the things that people say is why did you marry so young? And how did you guys do it?
Yeah.
And for me,
Great questions.
you know,
Took the
I
words out of my mouth.
well, what I think, and I'm going to say this is it was the role model.
Sure.
Sarah's parents are still married,
Mm-hmm.
and my parents are still married, and so that makes a huge difference.
I'm sure.
Okay, because growing up as a kid, I never saw my mom and dad argue. I mean, think about that. I seen my mom mad at my dad,
Mm-hmm.
and the moment my mom was mad at my dad, he did one thing right, or he probably did a lot of things wrong. But the one thing I saw him do right is he always made up real quick.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm
Yes.
not saying they didn't argue. I just never seen it. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that my mom wasn't mad at my dad because there were plenty times that she was mad at my dad. And man, he would try to do something. He would try to do something right away to just calm it,
Yeah. So they
and
quickly resolved
he quickly
issues,
resolved it. Yeah,
regardless of what that looked like leading up to that point.
yep,
They still, because everybody has conflicts and in different, different things we disagree about or whatever. I had a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, and I said, "This is why we don't discuss politics." You know what I
hmm
mean? But we're going to agree to disagree, and I love you. Do you know what I mean? Let's squash this because it's really not important to have this kind of energy. Let's resolve this and go back. Let's talk about something light. So it's a process. But do you find that you have adopted that same um,
Oh yeah,
apology style or resolution,
oh
conflict
yeah.
resolution, where you have
Do
a heated debate or a disagreement?
um me. I usually probably won't say too much anything. People always say, "What is the hardest part about marriage?" Man, the
Mm,
hardest part about marriage is dealing with you, not the other
yourself.
person, but you. Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you have to respond to just about every situation. You can either escalate a situation, you could be justified in
Yes.
escalating a situation or defending yourself. I mean, you could be justified in doing so.
Mm-hmm.
But how does that really work out in the end? And it doesn't mean that you hide who you are as an individual.
Yeah.
It just literally means that, you know what? I mean, I've been with Sarah for over 31 years now.
Wow. That's
And
amazing.
and
Congratulations,
she
man.
is who she is, and I am who I am because I'm pretty sure there's things that I do that literally just
Which is
drive
hard
her
to
nuts.
believe because you guys look like teenagers.
Oh man. Well, look,
you know,
after after after
black
reaching,
don't crack.
you know what? After reaching into the freezer, grabbing French fries and slipping
Yeah,
my,
it's
yeah,
like,
I know, I know I'm not a teenager.
yes, yes. But it's good to know, to see, first of all, healthy, wholesome Black marriages that have sustained time, and I know no relationship is perfect, but I think what is perfected, I would imagine, is how you relate to that person because you grow. I mean, you guys been together, 26, 30 years.
hmm
So it's inevitable that you grow, right?
hmm Oh yeah, you have to grow.
And
Again.
change and morph. I mean, you went from the initial teacher with the jealous, you know,
hmm
female director to I'm going to do janitorial. I'm going to open my own business. So you're newly married. You lose your job, correct?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
lose it now. Now they did allow me to resign.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay. Well, okay. So it's like we ain't gonna fire you, but you got to quit.
right.
So, but those were different. That was a major change. So you're an entrepreneur, own your own business. Sometimes it's lean, that can weigh on a marriage as well.
hmm
So you own your own business for 10 years and then you get, you meet people who will elevate you,
hmm
level up 365,
Right,
which
right,
will,
right.
I know, right? Which will cause you to see a different way of doing things
hmm
better, smarter, not harder. those are phases where you had to morph and become a new iteration of yourself. And she had to, okay, what's
You know what?
next?
But you know what? I probably became very similar to my dad, and she became very similar to her mom. I mean, no, seriously, I
Oh,
just
really?
yeah. She
Yeah.
looked at me and she said, "Oh my gosh, you look just like your dad." And I could be doing things, and I just say,
Yeah.
"This is exactly what my dad would do in this particular situation."
Mm-hmm.
And so, having good role models is
Yeah.
extremely, extremely important. Man, I can't stress that enough. And so, when you see it, you can live it. And so when I say
Hey.
I've been fortunate to have a good father. I've
Mm.
been fortunate to have a great mom.
Hmm. Hey,
And
Sarah. And she said, and I'm 35. Hi, Lois. You got a great guy. And I know
uh-oh,
it's all partly to you, mainly due
not,
to you.
not,
But you know what? That's interesting because what do you say? What time is it? I don't want to hold you. Okay. Um, what do you say? Probably another 5 or 10 minutes, five
that's
minutes.
not,
I don't want to. Because we talked about faith, we talked about family, embracing the new normal, the
mhm,
opportunity to reinvent yourself. And I want to, because I do believe with God, all things are possible.
mhm,
So if
mhm,
you didn't have those role models, do you then become the role model? You know what I'm saying, to others who are looking to start a relationship, grow, become married, um, and want to emulate, not so much have the exact same thing, but to emulate what you are living. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like some people didn't grow up in two-parent households. Some people came through different kinds of situations that were not as fortunate.
mhm.
So, how is it possible for others to have what you have without that foundation?
Well, remember we talked about earlier, looking at what you have and being grateful for what you have and not for what you don't have.
Sure.
And so when I look at that situation, I can't speak on that particular situation because I've never experienced it. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I did have a father at home. I have no idea what it's like not to have a father at home. I don't even have an idea what it's like for your father to miss a basketball game. I don't.
Right.
And so
Because
now
we have to remember you were a star athlete. We did not
I
talk
was
about that,
I
right?
was I was actually pretty good. And then all of a sudden
Yeah.
I meet Sarah and I'm like, oh my gosh, I really don't know if I want to be
That's
the
the
man on
perfect
the
score,
block.
though. That was the
Yeah,
perfect score, me, Sarah. So,
and so, I was the guy I was the guy that the coach, I was in his office all the time, and he would say, he would tell me, this woman is killing any type of career you have. She's killing it.
yeah. Yeah.
And, coaches don't mind when you date a girl, but man, they hate when their players they fall in love because it is different because you're
It's
18.
different.
Most guys don't know how to manage their emotions when they're mature. So imagine an 18-year-old kid
Sure.
who's
Yeah.
trying to play basketball, manage his emotions, do good in school, started a campus ministry. So I got all of this stuff I was doing. And for me, I didn't have that balance. But talking about the person who doesn't have that father figure,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't even speak to that person.
Yeah.
But what I can
Yeah.
say is this, as you are that person, I have nieces that I've adopted because they don't have father figures.
Yeah.
I have goddaughters that I've adopted because they don't have father figures. And so
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter. I can only do what I can do.
Sure.
And I
Sure.
have to be careful of try of controlling stuff that I have no control over.
Absolutely.
So not only can I
Absolutely.
do what I can do, I can only control the stuff that I can control. And so for that person who may not have a father, it's extremely important that you still get some type of fatherly, godly instruction and
Yeah.
counsel because that's,
Absolutely.
that's huge.
There it is. There it is. So even if they did not have that growing up, you're saying it's important to seek that
Hmm.
that kind of motivation. I mean, you had your coach, you had your dad, and I'm sure you've had your mentors, your business mentors. So you've been fortunate enough to, even as you were growing, you were connecting to people along the way outside of your father
Yeah, I had Sarah's
to
dad.
help you grow.
Right, I had Sarah's dad. So I
Yeah.
remember, I remember one time I was in college, I think he sat down and he said, "Look, I'm going to show you how to balance a checkbook."
Right.
That was
If you
her
marry my
dad.
daughter.
Yeah, that was her dad.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. So, any other parting words of wisdom? This was so great. Um, this is my heart, just letting people tell their stories, and I'm just here to kind of listen and scoot up and everybody join me and just like listen, because at the end of the day, it's these kinds of conversations that we can have where even if we didn't have something coming up, or we are trying to become a better person, reinvent ourselves, become better, become a better person, not so much reinvent, just become better.
Mhm.
We have these kinds of conversations of inspiration, and always be grateful. What are some parting words of wisdom you want to leave us with amidst everything that you've dropped just now?
I think my parting words would be, no one's perfect.
Right.
And so one of the things that I never try to come off is I never try to come off as a person who has it all together, because I don't.
Sure. Right.
Okay? I'm pretty sure, right, that if Sarah could choose Will Smith or Vaughn, no, it's either.
Well, we better ask Jada about that one
No,
because
I'm
she
teasing.
might
No,
trade. She
no,
might
you might
trade.
say, okay, hey,
She
look, no,
might
I'm
trade
teasing.
you. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, she's
Well,
talked about how Will,
yeah,
kind of like you, where you're a big personality. Do you see what
yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah,
She's more laid back. So yeah,
yeah.
but
Well,
I get it.
I'm teasing, but my parting words is, success is not a destination; it's a journey,
Mm,
and you never really arrive, because
sure.
once you get there, your job is to pass the baton to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
there's always work. And let me say this, and I'll leave with this. There's
Mm-hmm.
always work as a servant in God's kingdom.
Yeah. Wow. Because God is forever.
Always
God
work.
is forever.
Hmm.
Wow. I feel so great. I hopefully um you had a good time on my first show. I just
No, I
appreciate
haven't
you.
done it yet.
And I
Well,
did it.
I
Hercules,
hope you
Hercules.
know what. And to be honest, I hope I didn't let you down, and I answered all the questions that you asked, because I know sometimes we can deflect. Um,
Oh, this was, what? I didn't, if there was any kind of deflection, which it wasn't, this was probably the best deflection.
okay.
We touched on everything, and it was just a flow, which I knew it would be once we got started, as we talked
Mhm.
about that. But yeah, I'm going to figure out how I can save this and whatnot. But I do appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Um, you've always been cool towards me, and just a great exhorter, if I can say
Mhm.
exhorter. And we need that. We need people to see the light. Thanks, Sarah. We need people to see the light in others and call forth that greatness. So
Mhm.
I appreciate you as always, and just glad I know you. So
Thank you, girl. I appreciate
yeah,
it. I appreciate
yeah,
you too. And you know
yeah.
what? I pray for much success. And I know
Oh,
this is the first one, but this is just one of many to come. So again, thank you for allowing me to be the guinea pig.
absolutely. Thank you, honey. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Wow, that was amazing. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Um, I'm going to end the broadcast. This is the first of many, as Vaughn said. And so I have no idea. I'm still learning this particular software app or whatever you want to call it. Um, but this felt good. And I'm looking forward to more episodes like this. And I appreciate you. Oh, thanks, Keisha. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. And I won't get emotional, but this has been a dream of mine for some time. And then I was, my car is down and I couldn't get to interviews, and I was just praying for a way. And then this happened. And it's like, the time is now. the time is now. This is the time to pivot. And hopefully I will, yes, I just, he used to call me superstar. So the time is now. And, I won't ramble. But thanks, guys, for watching. And I will see you soon. Broadcast.